And thank you again for letting me ref the legislative softball game. Congratulations on your resounding victory over the Senate.
Good morning and welcome to the Committee on Ways and Means. Thank everyone for joining us. We have a full house here in Carson City and a few down south, and those that are joining us on the phone. And we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 66, which revises provisions relating to district courts. Good morning and welcome to Ways and Means.
Good morning, Chair, members of the Assembly Ways and Means Committee. My name is Douglas Herndon. I'm the Chief Justice of the Nevada Supreme Court. I appreciate greatly the opportunity to appear in front of you today and talk on behalf of our amended AB66. And I'm grateful to Judiciary Chair Miller for working with us to come up with a reasonable amendment to this bill for the two districts in our state that have the most pressing needs for some assistance. I'm joined today as well by John McCormick, our Assistant Court Administrator, as well as Chief Judge Lewis and Judge Woodbury from the 1st Judicial District, and Maxine Cortez, the Court Administrator for the 1st Judicial District, should the members have any questions for them, but they will also be speaking in favor of the bill. A little bit of history. The 10th Judicial District was formed back in 2011. And since that time, it has moved forward with just the one judge, Judge Stockard. And I apologize. He sends his apologies for being unable to be here today. Unfortunately, he's the only show in town from a judge standpoint, so his calendar didn't allow him to be here. But the 1st Judicial District got its second judge, and it's a two-judge district, when I was in high school. And I'm an old man, right? I'm going to be 61 in a couple of weeks. So that's over 40 years ago that district received its second judge, and again, has moved forward since that time. And I think that's important to note because of the very real changes that have occurred in the populations in those two areas, as well as all of the things that we've added to the calendars of district court judges in that time, most particularly the specialty court programs. They are incredibly successful. But when you add a drug court program and a mental health court program and a DUI court program, it creates almost a separate calendar that would be necessary for another judge to hear. Sometimes in the rurals, we have senior judges that will travel around to help hear those calendars. But I just bring it up to kind of accentuate the need because of the way caseloads have developed for these judges to get some assistance. We have 3 judicial districts in the state whose caseloads are exponentially larger than any other district. Most every other district in the state has under 1,000 cases per judge, more in the line of 600 or 700 to 900. Judge Stockard's caseload is almost 1,700 cases. That's in line with the 8th Judicial District Court. Carson City, almost 1,400 cases per judge. The fall off after those 3 districts is very real. For instance, an example, if you look at the 11th Judicial District, which also has one judge, that's a 690 caseload. So you can kind of understand the disparity with what is happening in Carson City and in the 10th Judicial District with being able to effectively administer their caseloads and achieve efficient, fair, and timely resolution for the citizens of those communities. I'm also incredibly proud to be here on behalf of these districts because for a very long time, as I mentioned earlier, they've done more with less, but they've also done everything right to stand here today before you and ask for some help. And by that I mean they have gone to their governing bodies. In the 1st Judicial District, it's Carson City and Story County. In the 10th, it's Churchill County, to get them on board with their requests, to know that there aren't any impediments to moving forward if you would be so gracious as to grant us the 2 judges. And I can tell you that Carson City is on board, Story County is on board. They both understand the need for judges in those districts, and they're going to work on whatever financial implications are. They already have the space in Carson City for the judge. Churchill County has similarly already committed to the funding of all the staffing needs. They already have the space available for the second judge, and in anticipation of getting another judge, they've already started the process of building a new courthouse, which they expect to break ground on this year. So the counties and Carson City are full on board with the requests that are being made to get this assistance so that there won't be any ripples moving forward with the judges moving into those districts and starting in 2027. In short, there is a very real and pressing need in these districts, and I would ask for your strong consideration to move the bill forward and grant the funding that would allow for these 2 judges. The last thing I'll say is I've tried very hard, and I know Justice Stiglitz did it before me in your last legislative session, to impart to you sincerely my desire for the judiciary to be a good partner and not just come and ask for things, but to work on ways that we can help address fiscal things as well. I know that one of the things that's of concern to the legislature through AGR 8 is the creation of a business court, which admittedly everybody knows would have a pretty substantial financial impact because it would be creating a whole new court system. What we've done is already started the process now at the Supreme Court level of an administrative docket to get all of our stakeholders involved and do what we can to improve our business courts right now with some immediacy to create dedicated business courts, which is the goal of that bill, so that there's judges just handling business court cases in the 8th and the 2nd without any expenditure of money, to create rules as to how, modeling after our water law process, how we can certify and train those judges to be able to handle business court cases, create rules for how those judges would be chosen in those districts and how the cases would be managed moving forward, and the publishing of dispositions in those cases, all the things that we can do. Even if you pass AJR 8, which I understand there may be a desire to do that, we're trying to do something now that can provide you with data moving forward as you decide in the next session whether to continue that AJR, whether you want to choose to go any other route that might be fiscally less cumbersome on the state. So we're trying our best, but we do have a dire need to assist these 2 districts with these 2 judges, and I thank you very much for listening to me today and for your consideration. And I'm happy to answer any questions, obviously.
Good morning, and thank you so much for the presentation. So just want some clarification. In the amended revised bill, Section 1 was deleted by the amendment, correct? Section 1, Section 3, Section 4, Section 5, Section 6, 7, and 8. 8 was not deleted but amended, and Section 9 was deleted. So with all of those deletions from the bill, or the original bill had a number of fiscal notes. So for all of those agencies that had fiscal notes on the original bill, I'd like for them to testify how the amendment affects their fiscal note. And before each agency comes up for that, Assembly Member Bacchus has an additional question. So I have the Department of Parole and Probation that had submitted a fiscal note, and then the administrative offices of the court had 2 fiscal notes, and then a number of the counties, but if the counties are not going to be implemented or affected as the bill is amended, if their fiscal notes have been removed, if you know that.
Thank you, Chair. John McCormick for the record, JOHN, MCCORMICK. It is my understanding that with the elimination of all the other judge positions, that those county fiscal notes become moot, for lack of a better term, because they would not have the obligation to provide the staff, housing, all that stuff for the judge. And so then we are just down to, with the way this bill has been amended, the fiscal impact to the counties would be to Carson City / Story County and to Churchill County, as the chief indicated. And you'll have to forgive me, I do not remember the genesis of the P&P note, so hopefully we have somebody here on that.
Okay, I have the administrative fiscal note would be $322,902 for FY27, and then future bienniums would be at $1.2 million, and that's for the salary and benefits of the district court judges, and that will be paid from the general fund, including the for the general fund, and that stands that is the correct amount?
Thank you, Chair. John McCormick for the record. Yes, that is the correct amount. The revised fiscal note provided by AOC, as you referenced, is that salary amount for 6 months of the biennium. And then the second line there, you see the $13,344. That is for mandatory training for these district judges as required by NRS 3.027 and .028, and then that training amount in future biennia is for the mandatory ethics course that is required of all judges under Administrative Docket 251 from the Supreme Court. So this is the accurate fiscal note.
Okay. I have a fiscal note from Carson City, and if there's someone from Carson City, if they could speak to that. And I have Churchill County. I do not have one from Story County. Do you know how much that one is? I don't see the Story County. You mentioned it, but I don't have it in my file. Good morning.
Good morning. Maxine Cortez, Court Administrator for the 1st Judicial District Court. It's a pleasure to be here today. So we are ready in 2000. Cortes. So we met with the Board of Supervisors yesterday at their meeting, and we discussed the fiscal note. The court has committed to pay for half of the positions in 2027 through court-restricted funds to assist with the financial impact. I have Cameron Gersh here. I don't know if you want to also talk about that.
No, thank you. I don't want to repeat what will be supportive testimony. Other than that, we've considered this heavily, and we're grateful for the committee and for the Chief Justice for mentioning our own infrastructure and other fiscal concerns in his testimony. But if you have any other further questions, we're happy to assist. We're sorry we don't have our financial officer here today, but I'm happy to follow up if there's anything here we can't answer for you today. Oh, yes. And sorry, Cameron Gresh for the record. Gresh spelled Gresh.
I do want to add Maxine Cortez, Cortes. I do want to add that when I say we're ready, we built the third courtroom in 2015. We did that with the anticipation of a third judge. Didn't quite think it would take about 10, 12 years. But we are ready for this. We paid for that courtroom with grant funds and court-restricted money. We didn't ask the city to pay for that. They were grateful for that. We have a great partnership with Carson City and Story County. In addition, we've had discussions with Story County, and they've been open and very receptive to assist with offsetting some of the costs for the staff. They do that now with some of the positions. And so, again, it's a great partnership that we have with the court, with our county, with our city, and we're really looking forward to having that third judge on staff so we can have greater access to justice.
I'm happy to hear that you've been working with Story and they're willing to assist because they did not submit a fiscal note. So I am going to take that as they aren't going to have a fiscal impact if they did not submit a fiscal note. I'm going to go to Assemblymember Koenig and then Assemblymember Bacchus.
Thank you, Chair. And so it's a little bit scary to think it's been just a little over 2.5 years when I was sitting on the Churchill County. I was a Churchill County commissioner at that point. And this was on our radar, and we discussed it quite a bit. And we were very in favor at that point, and we had started the process of planning and getting ready to build a new courthouse that they're getting ready to break ground on now. And so there will be space in that new building to accommodate this. And so this is, I can't speak for Churchill anymore because I've been off for 2.5 years, but at the time that was something that, they were really supporting back, a couple of years ago.
Thank you for that insight. I appreciate it. Assemblymember Bacchus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I think the questions were kind of resolved with respect to the parole and probation. I was just a little confused how everyone was sharing staff, but thank you for coming up and explaining that. But I just had a follow-up question, and I know this isn't the policy committee, but Justice Herndon, you said something that was quite interesting, and so my mind went back to the numbers. You indicated that there were 3 counties that our judges on average have over 1,700 cases on the docket, which includes Carson and Churchill. And I think you also dropped in Clark County. And so with our civil, criminal, and family division, 32 plus 26 departments, the average across the board is over 1,700 as well cases. Just out of curiosity. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for the question. Douglas Herndon on behalf of the Supreme Court, Herndon. Clark County remains the highest caseload per judge in the state, 1,689 cases. I think it is a vastly different story, however, when you talk about a district with 58 judges who are going to wax and wane in terms of what's going on at any given time. So they have a very deep bench, no pun intended, about ability to, and thank you again for letting me ref the legislative softball game. Congratulations on your resounding victory over the Senate. It's a very different story in terms of their ability to cover for each other versus nobody being able for Judge Stockard and very little ability for the Carson City for the first when it's just 2 judges. So that increases funding because we then have to provide senior judges, and we would like to avoid doing that as well.
And I figured also the breadth of type of cases that the smaller counties are doing is they'll handle anything from family law, criminal law, civil law, probably even they don't have probably municipal judges or anything else. So they're really covering something as small as like misdemeanor all the way up. So
very true. I apologize for interrupting. No. Very true. Douglas Herndon for the Supreme Court again. I think Judge Woodbury, if he may have had to leave to go to court. He had to go back to court.
Yeah, you don't need to bring him up.
But he's involved in the large litigation with Switch and the technological park, and that is a very, very complicated case. It's similar to a lot of the large-scale litigation that's occurring in our urban districts as well. In addition to everything you just mentioned, also having a family court caseload, a criminal caseload, et cetera. So yes, there is a lot going on in the smaller districts, and when you increase those caseloads as high as they are now, it makes it very difficult to provide timely justice.
By chance, is there anyone here from parole and probation, DPS parole and probation, that could speak to the fiscal note? All right, well, we will have to. Oh, down south. I'm so sorry. Good morning. I should have looked up. You have a fiscal note that has $116,388 in FY 26-27, and then $432 in future biennium. Could you speak to your fiscal note, and does the amended version of this bill affect that at all, or is this fiscal note on the amended bill?
Good morning, Chairman Monroe, the members of the Committee on Ways and Means. My name is Shannon Serena, SHANNON-SERENA, and I'm a captain of the Nevada State Department of Public Safety, Division of Parole and Probation. As far as speaking to this, with an increase of judges in each district court, the division will need a corresponding increase in specialists to handle the increased workload. Current staff will not be able to absorb these responsibilities due to the workload and geographical restrictions. For instance, Carson City personnel are already covering courts in Story, Douglas, and Carson counties, while personnel in Fallon are covering courts in Churchill, Lyon, and Mineral County. As far to answer your question of if this is after the amended, that I do not know, and I'd have to get that information back to you.
Thank you, because the original bill was drastically amended, and it may affect your fiscal note. So if you could get that information back to us, we would appreciate that before we could move this bill forward.
Shannon Serena for the record. I will get that for you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Members, any other questions? All right. Go ahead.
Maxine Cortez, Court Administrator. I did want to, I think it's important to mention that the First Judicial District, the judges' caseloads, about 75% are civil and family law, probate matters, about 25% are criminal, which would impact parole and probation.
Thank you so much for that. Not seeing any other questions. Sure. Assemblymember Bacchus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And because I was curious, right now, when looking at the parole and probation's fiscal note, it looks like they've limited it to one position for each new judicial seat in the 1st and the 10th. Do they really have that right now? If a judge is only doing 25%, is that, like, in your experience, like, do they already have one assigned to each of the current judges? Or could, like, I'm getting at if we need both positions for each district.
Good morning. Excuse me. Kristin Lewis, District Court Judge here in Carson City for the 1st Judicial District. The way we structure our calendar with respect to criminal cases, and I would echo what Court Administrator Max Cortez indicated, we have law and motion calendar on Monday in Department 1, Tuesday in Department 2, my department, and then if we had a third judge, it would be on a separate day. We have the same parole and probation officer that comes to each court each separate day. And with our numbers in terms of people and cases that we're handling, they're already where they are. We just need an additional judge to try to handle that caseload. But the days and the times that we would have those structured would be separate because we also have to work with our district attorneys, defense counsel, for everybody to be able to appear and address those cases as well. So I don't envision that there would be that staffing increase or need for a staffing increase, at least right now, because our numbers are what they are in terms of the cases we're addressing.
Thank you so much for that, and welcome, Your Honor, to the legislature.
Thank you for being, it's my pleasure to be here.
Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. And this might be a better question for the district court judge here. Thank you for being here. So if I understand this, the bill is to increase the number of judges. Does that increase crime somehow, or caseload overall, more defendants because there's more judges, and create the need for more P&P work?
Thank you for the question again. Kristin Lewis, and I'll spell it Kristin. Last name is Lewis, Luis. And it's my pleasure to be here today. No, and we had this conversation with our Board of Supervisors as well. As I indicated, our numbers are where they are. And we didn't want to have to also add an increase to the public defender's office, the district attorney's office. As I indicated, the bulk of our caseload is not the criminal side of things. It's actually the other types of cases that we address. And if I could speak to that for a moment, in Carson City being the capital, so much of what we do address is different than what other jurisdictions are addressing. Not only are both district court judges general jurisdiction judges, and then we cover Story County as well. And Judge Woodbury just went to go to Story County to cover that law and motion calendar. And again, the same parole and probation officer is there. We do that on Fridays once a month. We'll probably have to start doing it more than once a month because their calendar has grown already. But the different types of cases that we handle, because we're the capital, involve election cases, challenges to the Constitution, priority cases that originate in Carson City. The fact that we have a prison here, that generates more cases based upon disciplinary issues and things that happen. We're also the jurisdiction that takes a lot more of the writs, regardless of whether they were incarcerated from another jurisdiction. Those are things that add to Carson City's caseload that are different and unique from other jurisdictions. And that's where a lot of our time is spent. I would say probably the family law cases, which can include guardianships with respect to minors and older persons, the family law cases where you're dealing with custody and divorce, those types of cases, and emergency motions that come up on those types of cases. That's where we're finding the challenges to find calendar time to address those, especially when there's an emergency. We will have jury trial issues where you've got back-to-back jury trials. And pursuant to Supreme Court rules, we're supposed to try to address our cases within 60 days of a matter being submitted to us. And right now, between the calendar time and the cases that we have, we're not able to meet that like we should. We're not able to address cases involving defendants who are in custody as we should, trying to meet that right to a trial within 60 days. We're not always able to address cases that involve victims who want to have a right to a trial within a timely period as well. And that's just based on calendar time. And that's where a third district judge would be so beneficial to us so that we could have access to that calendar, have the ability to address those issues better. I don't see how that would increase crime or how it's being handled.
Thank you. And I see we have the officer back at the table down south, then we'll come back up north. Thank you.
Yes, Shannon Serena for the record. I was able to get that answer for you. This is, our fiscal impact note is on the amended version. Would like to reiterate that 70% of the costs are reimbursed for us by the county, but also with the addition of the judges or 2 additional judges, that would increase our need for 2 additional specialists due to the fact we'd be covering more days in court for when the judges need us.
Okay, thank
Madam
you.
Chair, may I?
Go ahead, please.
Doug Herndon on behalf of the Supreme Court. One of the things I wanted to point out, and in deference to parole and probation, even though caseloads wouldn't necessarily grow up to the point made by Assemblymember Hibbets and I believe Assemblymember Backus's question as well, I do understand that there can be well, now we have more calendars. But I think what we've demonstrated in the past in our various judicial districts is some flexibility in working with public defenders, DAs, parole and probation on how we stack those calendars. For instance, if Judge Lewis heard a morning criminal calendar and then Judge number 3, whomever that may be, heard a criminal calendar thereafter on the same day, would that alleviate part of the problem on parole and probation? There's a variety of ways to be flexible on that, and I'm not discounting their fiscal note. I'm just saying that's one of the ways that we can work with them moving forward, and Churchill County knows this as well, to kind of accommodate everybody that needs to be traveling to these jurisdictions to help out.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for answering all the additional questions that we had. Members, any other questions? All right, not seeing any. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'll ask you to take a step back, and we'll invite anyone to the table that's here to testify in support of Assembly Bill 66.
Cameron Gresh, Carson City Government Affairs Liaison for the record, Gresh spelled G-R-E-S-H. Thank you, Chair Monroe Marino, and to the committee for this chance to testify in support of AB 66 on behalf of the Carson City Board of Supervisors. Thank you also for allowing us a chance to speak during our actual hearing. I'll keep my remarks short. We're supportive of this bill. We're grateful for the extra judge that will enhance our capacity to dispense justice from our court system. We're also particularly grateful to the legislature for recognizing the fiscal and infrastructure preparations we made to accommodate this judge, and also our broader regional role in our assistance to Story County as well as our own county via the 1st Judicial District. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Good morning, Chair. Michael Hillerby on behalf of the Nevada District Judges Association here in support of the bill. As you've heard, access to justice is critical for our constituents, and that partnership between the state and the local governments in operating and running and staffing the district courts is critical, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alex Tanchek with Silver State Government Relations, here today representing Story County in support of AB 66. Story County has no objections to increasing the 1st District Judicial Court, which includes Story County and Carson City, from 2 districts to 3 district judges. And we've got an inquiry with the county manager, and we'll provide additional information on finance if that's.
Thank you so much for doing that. Is there anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony for Assembly Bill 66? Good morning and welcome to Ways.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich, C-A-D-E-N-C-E-M-A-T-I-J-E-V-I-C-H, representing Washoe County. Chair, you should have on Nellis a submitted unsolicited fiscal note from Washoe County indicating that our fiscal note on the original bill has been removed. That is also the case for the fiscal note from the 2nd Judicial District Court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno and members of the committee. My name is Jeff Rogan, J-E-F-F-R-O-G-A-N, representing Clark County. The same should be true for Clark County. If there is no revised fiscal note, the reprint eliminates any fiscal impact to Clark County. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.